on the subject. I'm joined by Dan Diker, president of the Jerusalem Center for Public Affairs. Good to have you back on the program. Dan, look, just to...
Good to be back, David.
Bear with me for a minute just to recap some of the latest, as I see it, setbacks for this administration when it comes to the region, Saudi Arabia. I mean, Iran just reopened their embassy in Riyadh. Very, a string of open and warm ties again on display there. Iran's vassal, Assad, now also brought back in from the cold in the region. The near breakup of the U.S. naval coalition against Iran in the Gulf and actual partnering with Iran now, I believe, those navies. And another significant development, which you can comment on if you feel like it, but it's in the golf world. I mean, the PGA and the Live Golf Tours, this is a major money merger between Saudi Arabia, essentially, and a big element in the U.S. with a diplomatic angle. I mean, former President Trump's aligned closely with the Saudis in this issue. So what are Blinken's leverage points right now going into the Saudi?
David, things are not always the way they look, especially in the Middle East. Having worked in the Middle East for 34 years, I call myself a student of the Middle East as opposed to a teacher of the Middle East because things are quite different than they look on I-24 or in the West. Let's be very clear. Mohammed bin Salman is 37 years old. The man is a visionary. He has a vision for Saudi Arabia called Vision 2030. He sees the kingdom as the startup nation of the entire Middle East. Having taken a look with great appreciation at his Israeli neighbor in the Middle East, and he has a very forward-looking idea for the region, for Saudi Arabia, that includes technology, being a net exporter of defense systems, of technologies, of all kinds of issues of food security, water security, and therefore he has re-engaged with Saudi's arch adversary as a message to the United States. The issue for Saudi Arabia and the United States is really over how the region will secure itself against the Islamic Republic of Iran, and how Saudi Arabia will emerge according to the vision of Mohammed bin Salman as the technology, economic, business, industrial, and security leader of the region. And this is the reason that one of the reasons that as leader of the Middle East, he has re-engaged also with Syria with regard to the recent Arab League meeting in Jeddah.
Look, when it comes to Israel, I'm just going to bring this into focus too. Bin Salman, I mean, recently, I'd say threw cold water on what he termed, I think, the near hysteria here for any possible new open ties with the Saudis. Look, it also seemed to rebuke at the same time this newly perceived concept in Israel that regional peace will come before Palestinian peace. Is normalization with Israel in the deep freeze?
No, normalization with Israel is not only not in the deep freeze, it's out of the refrigerator on the dining room table. Having just been traveling throughout the Gulf myself recently, meeting with government leaders as well as those in the private sector, it's very clear to me two things. Number one, normalization is very much alive and well and kicking. Israel's Gulf partners, especially Bahrain and the UAE, are looking for meat to put on the bones, meaning they're looking for elements in the Abraham Accord relationship with Israel that will benefit their peoples, not only transactions between Israeli venture capital funds and their counterparts in those countries, but issues of national concern, health, water security, food security particularly, as well as other technologies and other systems that Israel could be very helpful with, but that will be perceived by our Gulf partners as being helpful to the people. Now, having said that, it would be particularly helpful for Israel and its friends to stop talking about normalization with Saudi every 5 minutes and act a little more quietly, as if a staged normalization process is already taken place. The more that Israel and its friends talk about Israeli-Saudi normalization, the more pressure negative pressure can put on the entire process of normalization. And therefore, it is well advised to stop talking so much and start doing a little bit more.
We'll stay tuned for all of that, and perhaps keep talking about it here as well. Dan Diker, though, thanks for being with us on this. Obviously, a lot taking place, as you mentioned. Thanks for joining.
Thank you, David.